All right, let's get started with DS-2029. In section 1 here, we're filling out information about the child. So we'll start with our last name here, and we can just write it like this, last name. I'll pretend that's just one last name there. And this will be Alan, last name, because the first name will go here. Middle name, John. There's two options for sex. We can choose male or female. Alan John, last name is a male. Now, when we're writing the birth date, we want to write this in the month, date, year format using all numbers. So if they were born November 9th, 2022, we'd write 09/2022. And here we're going to write their birth city and country. So this could have been Shanghai, China. Make sure when we're doing this application, we're only using a black pen. Before we fill out number 2 and 3 right here, let's determine if both of the parents are going to make the interview. If one of them is not going to make the interview, then we're also going to have to fill out form DS-5507. I'll show you how to do that in this video up here. And we'll also have to check this box right here indicating that we're going to have to see accompanying form DS-5507. So if one of the parents can't make the interview, check that box and fill out that other form, and do not fill out this part of the application. The only name that should appear here is the name of the person actually going to the interview. But if both parents can make it to the interview, then we include both parents' information here. So let's start with parent number 1, also of last name status. First name Janet, middle name Lee. And if Janet Lee last name has had any other legal names in the past, she would need to include them all right here, doing the same thing with last name, first name, middle name. And if for some reason you have more than all these names listed here, you can always attach a separate sheet and add the additional names. Here we indicate the sex of this parent. This one will be female. And again with the birth date, month, day, year format. So April would be 04, the 22nd would be 22, and 1976 would be 1976. 2E here wants to know the citizenship of this parent. So when you were born, this parent, were you a U.S. citizen or a U.S. non-citizen national by law? If you were, then you select yes. If you weren't, then you select no. Now this could get tricky. My daughter, for example, was born in Hong Kong. Now because I'm an American, she automatically gets American status. Therefore, she would be a citizen, even though I had to get a CRBA for her. But we'll say yes, this parent is a citizen. And we'll pretend that this person was born in Townsville, Wisconsin, in the USA. And you can write it like that and it will be acceptable. And in 2G, they're looking for your current physical address. This should not be anything like a PO box or anything like that. This has to be an actual physical address. And if it's the same thing as your mailing address, then mark right here. And then that way, on number 5 on the next page, you don't have to fill out your mailing address again. So we'll say our address is 123 Main Street, and we could put that in City Place, Michigan, 00000 for the zip code as an example. Here it's gonna ask you for some phone numbers. You could have a work number, a home number, a cell number. You can include all 3 if you want to. Just make sure you write them in the 555-555-5555 format. That's the 10-digit format. Now, if for some reason you don't have a standard 10-digit phone number like you would in the United States, you can also include, say, +52, and then whatever your phone number would be if, say, you're in another country like Mexico. Your email address, I hope you know that. You should just write it out as email@address.com, whatever your email address is. After 2G, you could come up here to 3A and get started on the second parent doing the exact same thing. However, remember, if that parent can't make the interview, they should fill out DS-5507 and you should check this box right up here. Now that we're down to 2H and 3H, we're starting to answer questions regarding both parents. So, were the biological parents married when the child was born, and were they married to each other? If so, check yes. If no, check no. Now, if you were, let's say yes, then we're going to have to write the month, the date, and the year in the month, date, year format once again. So that could be March 03 on the 14th of 2020. And here you will provide the location of where you got married, the city, the state or the province, and the country. So city, New York, USA. And here you indicate, are you still married or are you divorced? If you are divorced, check that box. And then you have to indicate the day that you were legally divorced. Maybe that was June 06, the 11th, 2022. Or perhaps one of the other parents is deceased. You'll mark it there and mark the day they were deceased. Perhaps July 1st, 2022. Okay, on to the next page. So when we come on to 2I and 3I here, we're listing all the marriages that the people have had, including the marriage they've had with each other. So for example, Janet Lee last name may be married to Adam Jake last name. And then you would want to indicate if there's been a divorce or a death in the family, or if you're still married. In this case, still married. And you should also indicate the date of the marriage as well. In our case, it was 06/11/2022. And now at this point, if you've had any prior marriages before this one, you should do the exact same thing, and if you need more space, you can just attach an additional sheet of paper and include that information. So when we come up to 2J and 3J, here we're indicating the amount of time that we've actually lived within the United States. So in this column, we'll write down the city and the state, and right here we write when we moved there and when we left. And again, for the month, day, year, we can do month, month, date, date, year, 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 year format. So maybe we lived in Phoenix, Arizona from November 9th, 1999 to February 8th, 2008. And then after that, maybe we moved to Tucson, same state. So that would have been from February 8th, 2008. And can you see that I made a little mistake right here? I kind of made my 0 over top of my 2. If you make a mistake, you can't just cross it out or anything like that. They're gonna want you to restart and get a whole new application. So that's why I like to do it page by page like this too. If you mess up on one page, you can just print off the page that you messed up on and start over. Anyways, after we moved there, let's say we lived there until June 9th, 2022. And then you would just continue on filling out all the times that you've moved or lived in different places in the United States. Same thing for your partner over here. Again, no need to fill out this information. If this person can't make the actual interview, they can just fill that out on DS-5507. Okay, in section 2K and 3K here, these are going to be a little bit more rare, but for people that were actually in the U.S. Armed Forces or were under the U.S. government employment, or if you're a qualifying international organization employee, something like that, or if you're also a child of somebody who was employed in said ways, that's when you're going to fill out these sections right here. So you would indicate the branch, the agency, the organization that you were actually a part of, and the time that you were there to the time that you were left in the same month, month, date, date, year, 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 year format. So maybe you worked for the U.S. Embassy in Hong Kong from January 9th, 2001 to December 8th, 2009. You can fill it out like that and then continue on with any other employment history. Okay, now in number 4 right here, they're gonna ask you how you want to receive your CRBA. Do you want to pick it up or do you want to receive it by mail? If you want to receive it by mail, you can include your mailing address right here. However, if it's the same as your physical address, remember we wrote that right here and we should mark same as mailing address. Of course, if our mailing address is different from our physical address, that's when we write out our mailing address. That could be 145 Main in the city of Townie, in the state of California, in the country of USA, with the standard 5-digit postal code. When we get to section B right here, the only people who need to fill this out are U.S. citizen fathers completing the form for children who were born out of wedlock. Now, by out of wedlock, they mean children who were born to parents who were not married to each other at the time of the birth, or if they were born more than 300 days after your marriage's termination. So if you fit one of those categories, you need to fill this out and you draw a line through anything that's not true and make sure you initial those lines as well. So if we're filling this part out, we're gonna write I, Alan, John, last name, and the father of, and we name the child, Mike, John, last name, who was born on. The date of birth should be in the month, month, day, day, year, 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 year format. We could say July 26th, 2022. In, and we could say here, Hong Kong, or whatever city and country is true for you. And again, if anything through here is untrue, like you can't provide financial support or whatever until they reach 18, make sure you strike that out and initial next to it. And you do not sign until you get in front of the oath officer. Coming down to section C here, everyone that's filling out this application will continue on through here. However, again, we're not going to sign anything until we get in front of the oath officer. We can put our names down here and our relationship to the child. So here we could say Alan John last name is the father, and that Janet Lee last name is the mother. And that's all we're going to include until we get in front of the oath officer. Now, if you still need to fill out DS-5507, I'm gonna put that video up here for you and some other videos around here that may be relevant to your needs for a CRBA as well.